ask your therapist if Mind World is right for you. So, as you might have noticed, I already wrote down the titles of all these 3 videos. So it's the third and last one that I'm making. So basically all these 3 videos are kind of an update on what's been happening for the game and kind of the 1-year anniversary of the game. So last time I talked about the way we present the game and what kind of products people can get from the game, which we simplify to the bare minimum with these randomized decks. Before I talked kind of about the last few things that we made in coming towards the third set. I talked a bit about how it came to be, this game. And now I'm gonna kind of touch on something that's still a bit nebulous for us. So the idea is, or the question that we have, and that we have a hard time answering, is who is Mind Worlds for? So it's a question that, if you're creating a card game yourself or a game yourself, you kind of have to answer this question. Being able to answer this question will allow you to find the right voice, the right way to talk to these people, or it will allow you to find where these people are, to be able to show them the game so that they can enjoy it. And so for Mind World, it's really something that we struggled with for a while. We don't really have an idea. We don't have an answer for that. But we have kind of a counter answer, which is that this game, Mind Worlds, is kind of made for us. It's made for, initially I made it for my partner. It's surrounded by psychological theory. It's all of our doodles. It's effects and a gameplay that we like. Basically, we took what we liked from other games and we just removed all the things that we didn't like. That's why in the game there's no fighting, there's no health, it's just effects, enter the battlefield effect and the train of thought, which is kind of the stack in Magic, where you have all these interesting interactions, where it's filled with unknown. So yeah, basically the game is made for us. And I think that it kind of answers part of the question, but it also influences how we create the mechanics of the game and all the different cards, because it's all this lore and the idea behind the game and what we like about the game that influences the gameplay and all these new game pieces that we create. And so we came up with a few keywords, a few ideas that we are trying to follow set after set, and that we've already been following without really putting a name on them. So the first one is the 3 U's. So it's unknown, unstable, and uncertain. That's kind of how we want the game to be. Unknown is this idea of never really knowing what your opponent has or what it could do. So it's a lot of having hidden information in the game, and having information be something really important. The second U is unstable. The idea is that we want to keep the game as hard to predict as possible. I feel like for the moment we manage really well to do that, which I'm really happy about. I feel like there's a few elements in the game that makes it quite easy for this to happen, and I'm glad we went with those. And finally, uncertain. So uncertain is kind of similar to the others. It's this idea that you never know who's gonna win at the end. So the core idea behind all this, behind these 3 U's, etc., also behind the lore and just what we like about the game, it could be settled with one word, which is change. We want the game to never be the same, because it's something that we were confronted with different other games, mainly Magic, where we built some decks, and after a while, after playing with these decks a few times, there's basically one path. There's one way the decks are being played, the randomness is pretty limited, and you end up with having games that are kind of always similar to one another. And it's something that initially I really wanted to avoid. And I feel like we are managing it quite well, that no matter which decks you have, no game is the same. It's this idea of the butterfly effect, that if you make one change, near the beginning, it will trickle down at the end of the game to something totally different. And I feel like it's something that we really managed to do, mainly with these color combinations, meaning that if the mind has slightly different color, even if it's just one less yellow or one more blue, it completely changes the dynamic of the game. And so it really has this butterfly effect that makes it so there's constantly change. No matter how many times you play the same deck, you will not have the same game. You will have to improvise something. You will never know, you will never be sure of the outcome. And so that's kind of what we want the game to be. And I guess that's kind of our way to find players who would be interested in the game, who would be bored by a game where if you play 4 or 5 matches with the 2 same decks, you end up kind of knowing who's gonna win, and you end up kind of knowing the patterns of it, which, it's not a bad thing. It's something that is comfortable when you play a game, that you start to learn a meta game, and you start to get used to how things work, and it becomes a puzzle. But I feel like for Mind World, it's not something we want. We don't really want a puzzle, we don't want a rehearsed scene that you're doing. We kind of want an improvisation match. The experience of going towards the unknown. And so that's the main idea. Then we are kind of thinking of a few ways to implicate more people into the crafting of the game. And so the first ideas that we've started implementing with the third set, there are 3 main things. So with the third set, we are kind of offering people the ability to name the new cards, which is fun. It doesn't really involve you a lot in the game. But it's something that's kind of fun to have the name you chose into a card. The second thing is mechanics. So it's something that hasn't developed a lot yet, but we are starting to have some ideas from other people about mechanics, and I'm trying to do my best to really run with it and try to find a way for the mechanic to work with the game. So that's the second element. And the third one is artwork. So you might see in the third set, we're gonna have a few people besides the one we commissioned that made some artworks for the game. And I feel like it's something that's really nice for people to be able to feel involved in the sense that, there's one card that's theirs, like there's their name on it, they're the artist of it. Maybe they also suggested some mechanics in the past and they see this mechanic in a card here and there. And so it makes part of the game a bit more community driven. And so that's the main 3 elements: the naming, new mechanics, and some artworks. So we are really happy with that. But finally, the last thing that we probably want to go forward in order to grow the game, because that's kind of the idea behind it. The idea behind answering the question, who is Mind Worlds for, is the idea that who can we find that would be interested in joining us, in joining this game, in trying it out, in offering feedback, in playing with us. And so we kind of feel like a big thing, we talked a bit about it, and a big thing for me is that if I join a game, I kind of want to know that the game is still going on. So the idea is that we are gonna start having some tiny goals, really goals that are maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, but tiny things that where we can really see progression. For the moment, there's only a few elements. So it's mainly metrics. So what we want to go for this first step forward would be to reach a certain number of people on the Discord. Part of this goal would also be to have a certain number of players who kind of play the game semi-regularly. And the idea for this goal would be to have 12 people that play semi-regularly, meaning maybe once or twice a month, something like that, but that actually already picked up the game, that tried it on Tabletop Simulator or that got it from the Game Crafter, and that played some game, that enjoy it. So to have 120 people on the Discord, 12 semi-regular players, and finally to have 3 I'm not exactly sure what to call them, but to have some kind of ambassadors, meaning that people who are really implicated in the game and that would like to bring some new players that are really, excited about the game. And yeah, that's kind of the idea behind the name ambassador, that they want to talk about it and to spread it. So that's the idea. 120 people on Discord, 12 semi-regular players, and 3 ambassadors. That's what we are reaching for this next step. And I'm guessing at each of these steps, we are going towards a tiny evolution of the game. I'm looking forward to what's coming. The third set is basically done. It's gonna come in November the 1st. And in the meantime, if you want to help us reach these goals, if you want to try out the game, there's probably gonna be some links down below. And yeah, I wish you a nice day.